Hi, welcome to this Virtualmin tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to set up Debian 10, and then once I set up Debian 10, I'm going to install Virtualmin, and then once I install Virtualmin, I'm going to show you how you can add a couple of WordPress sites on the Virtualmin server. So basically, the tutorial is about how to set up Debian 10, install Virtualmin, and then how you can add multiple WordPress sites. So I will be using WordPress for this example. And most importantly, I'm going to use the Virtualmin LEMP stack. LEMP. We're going to use the LEMP stack. We're not going to install Apache. And for DNS, I'm going to use Cloudflare for DNS. So if you don't have a Cloudflare account, just go ahead and sign up. It's free. And this is what I'm going to use for DNS. I'm not going to use Virtualmin for the DNS, even though I'm going to install it. You can use it as well if you want to. And I do have a video about exactly how you can go about using any of these platforms, whether it's Virtualmin, CyberPanel, or whichever you want to use. You can use, there's a video I did about that, and that was specific to CyberPanel, but you can implement the same methods for Virtualmin. I'm going to use Valtra as my VPS of choice. If you don't have a Valtra account, go ahead and sign up. The link is in the description. So let's just get started in the next video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy the first instance. And the first instance we're going to deploy is of Debian 10. And once we install Debian 10, I'm going to start setting up the server. So I'm going to use a post that I already created. So if you go to bizanosa.com, there is a Debian setup post that I did. And that's the one that I'm going to use. So I can just search. Let me just search for Debian 10. And this is a post that I want to use. So if I go to that post, Debian 10 initial server setup. So this is a post that I'm going to use for this setup. And what we're going to do is we're going to deploy the server. We're going to see how you can log in. And I'm not going to log in via PATI. For this specific tutorial, I will be using what's it called? It's called Git Bash. So if you don't have Git Bash installed, just go ahead and install it. You can download it from Git. Just go to Google and I'm going to show you that when we get there. I'm going to use Git, but if you want to follow along with PATI, you can follow along with this post, which has everything you need, including how to set up SSH. We're going to set up everything we need to set up. The only thing we're not going to do here is set up a firewall. We're going to let Virtualmin handle that for us. So all this we're going to set up, and let's just get started in the next video. And what we're going to do is we're going to come here and we're going to deploy our first server. So you can follow along with any VPS, but I will be using Valtra. Valtra is very easy to use. The interface is very user-friendly. That's the only reason I'm using it. And the servers are also reliable. So that's why I'm using them, okay? Let's continue in the next step, and I'm going to set up the server in the next step. So let me deploy the server, and as I said, you can use Valtra or any VPS that you want to use. For me, I'm using Valtra. So if you want to deploy a server, just go there and deploy a new server. And I will be using Debian 10. So for this, you can use Cloud Compute or High Frequency. And I'm going to use Cloud Compute for this. This is 20% more expensive than that. And they say this is much faster than that. So I'm going to use, let me choose a location in America. And I'm going to choose a location. I will choose the Chicago data center. And then the operating system, I want to install Debian 10. So I'm going to click there, and then I will select Debian 10. And the server size, since I want to install Virtualmin, I want something that at least has 2 gigs of memory. So I'm going to choose this one for 10. I'm going to choose the $10 server, which has at least 2 gigs of memory. And of course, I will enable IPv6. I don't have any startup scripts, and I don't have the SSH key. I'm going to show you how you can set up the SSH key. And for the server hostname, I don't know which one to use. Let me log into Cloudflare and choose a domain that I can use. So for the server hostname, make sure you're using a name that is a fully qualified domain name. A fully qualified domain name, that's a name that you can access. If you add DNS records, it should be something that is accessible. You can use a full domain, or you can use a subdomain. So if you want to, you can use something like a full domain like that, or you can use a subdomain. But in my case, I want to use a subdomain. So I'm just going to add here panel dot that is the host name, and this is going to get set up on Debian. If you want to change it, you can change the host name on Debian using the terminal, using the command line. You can do that, but just make sure you set it up now, since we're going to install Virtualmin and our aim is to run a WordPress website, and we also want to be able to send mail. Make sure that you have a subdomain that is a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to add that as my host name, and then for the label you can use anything that you want. I'm just going to leave it as it is, and then let me just go up and see if there's anything I've missed, and everything is as I chose it. So I'm just going to click here and I will deploy my server. So let it finish installing. It's going to take a while, not even more than 5 minutes. Let's just click on it to see if it's already given us an IP address. Okay, not active. Just give it a few minutes, and then we're going to come here, click on it, and we're going to get user root, and we're also going to get a password and an IP address, and you can use the IP address to log in. So let me click on it again, and you can see now it is ready. So by the time you're watching this I will have removed this server. I will have destroyed the server. So don't try to access it in any way. So if you want to see your password, you can click there to see the password, and you can copy it. You can copy your IP address, and the user is root. So you can log in. If you want to log in via party, there is a guide here how you can log in via party. But I want to log in using Git Bash. So I'm on Windows. I'm doing this tutorial on Windows, and you can use Git Bash if you want that terminal-ish environment. So if you are on Linux, Mac, you can still follow along with me because I will be using Git Bash. If you prefer to use Party, the tutorial is here, how you can set up your server using Party, and I'm going to follow some of those as well. So if you want to install Git Bash, just come to Google and you're going to search for Git. Let's just search for Git. And you want to download it from Git SEM. Come here and click on downloads, and then download the one for Windows. So I'm on Windows. I'm going to download the one for Windows. I already have it installed. I'm just showing you what you can do. So once the download is complete, this is going to install everything we need. It's going to install Git Bash. It's going to install Git, and it's also going to install Git CMD. So anything that you want to do with any of those others, you can do, but we are only interested in Git Bash. So once you install it, just go and open it up, and we're going to use these details to log in. So I'm going to come here in my start menu, and I want to look for Git Bash. So open up Git Bash, and once you open Git Bash, the first thing you want to do is we want to try to log into our server. So I'm going to copy the IP address, and to log into the server, I will just write SSH. So this is the same way you log in on terminal if you're following along on terminal on Linux. So I'm using Windows, as I've said. So SSH, and then the user root at my IP address. So on Git Bash, you can paste by doing shift insert and then enter. And it's going to ask me if I want to allow this server into my hosts file. And this is a new server. So I'm going to type yes, and then enter. And this has been added to your hosts file. So that means that it is a known server, a known address. And then I'm going to go back, and I need to copy the root password. So I'm going to copy the root password, copy. And as I said, on Git Bash, you can paste by shift insert. You won't be able to see the password as you type it in or as you paste it in, but just press enter, and you should be logged in. Right, there we go. So now we're logged into the server. We can try to update the server. We don't really need sudo at this point. So I'm just going to do apt update to check if there are any updates. Okay, all packages are up to date. So in the next video, let's come in and we're going to create a sudo user. So the sudo user is a secure way for you to use your SSH. Once we do that, we're going to disable the root user so that they won't be able to log into the server. And from then on, anything that we do, we're going to use the sudo command. So everything we want to do, sudo update, sudo apt install, all that, we're going to use sudo. And we're going to do that once we set up the sudo user. So that's what we're going to do next. So if you're still with me, this is where we had stopped. And what needs to happen now, we need to create a sudo user. So let me I will clear the screen. So we need to set up, as I've said, we need to set up a sudo user, and the sudo user is going to give us all the admin privileges that we need. So let's come back to the post here, and the link for this is in the description. If it's not there, just remind me and I'm going to add it. So you can also use party to log in if you want to. So let's add the user, and I'm going to give it a different name from that. Add user. Give the user a strong password. All right, password updated successfully. All these others, I can just press enter to skip all of that. All right. And then the next step is we want to make this user a sudo user. Okay. So we need to add them, give them the sudo privileges. Okay. So I'll copy that bit. And I'll paste that, and the user is that. So give it the user that you created. So this user now is an admin user. So if you do experience any problem, depending on the VPS that you're using, you may experience a problem whereby this command is not going to work. You're going to get told that sudo is not recognized. So what that means is that they have a very minimal install of Debian, and what you need to do is you need to install sudo. That's all you need to do. Just install sudo and then run the command again. All right, so the next step is for me to try and log in. So I'm going to try and log in with the new details for this guy, and then once we are able to log in and we are able to run sudo commands, I'm going to immediately disable the root user from logging into the server. I will open up a new Git Bash window, and then I want to get the IP address, and I want to log in SSH, new user. And then the password for the new user. Okay, there we go. The new user has logged in. So let's just test if we can run sudo commands. So I'm going to do sudo apt enter the password. So every time you use sudo for the first time, it's going to ask you for the password. And you can see we can run sudo commands. So that means that everything is working well. So we've already set up the new user. Now the next process is, let's see what's next here. The next process, I think we need to set up SSH, and I'm not going to set up firewall because I'm going to install Virtualmin, and Virtualmin is going to add all the ports that we need. The next thing is to set up SSH. So you can set up SSH using party, but I'm also going to show you how you can set it up using Git Bash. So using the Git Bash method on Windows, if you're on Windows, you can set up SSH using Git Bash or using party. If you are on a Mac or a Linux, you can use Git Bash. You can actually follow along with me using Git Bash, but I also do have a very intense tutorial here, very intensive, about how you can set up SSH on your Linux or Mac computer for your CentOS, RHEL, Debian. So this basically works on any Linux distribution. So just follow this if you want to set up your SSH key and be able to log in using SSH. And then once we do that, we're going to disable password authentication so that people can only log in using the SSH key. So if someone doesn't have the SSH key, they will not be able to access the server. And that's the next thing that we're going to do. I can set up this using Git Bash or Party, but I do have a tutorial with Git Bash. So let me just look for that. Let me just search for Git Bash. And there we go. You can set up SSH using Git Bash. And this will also work for you if you're on Windows and you're following along with Git Bash. You can use this one as well. So this is just the same way that you do it on Linux, all right? So this is what I'm going to do in the next video. I'm going to use Git Bash to set up SSH authentication. So I'm going to see you in that next part. If there's anything that is not working for you, just let me know and we'll see what the issue could be. In the last one, you saw how to set up a sudo user, an admin user with root privileges. So in this video, let's see how you can set up SSH authentication using Git Bash. So I'm on Windows, that's why I'm using Git Bash. But even if you're on Linux or you're on Mac, you can still follow along with this. But as I told you in the last video, there's another post that you can follow if you're on Mac. If you're on a Mac, just come down to this part where it says SSH key authentication. The link for this is in the description, and click there. And this is going to take you to this page. And on this page, you can set up SSH key for any Linux computer. So let's see how we can set up the same for our Debian, and I will be using Git Bash. So as I said, if you don't have Git Bash, you can download Git, and it's going to come with Git Bash, and I showed you that in a previous video. Just download Git and it's going to come with Git Bash, Git CMD and Git GUI. Just here are the steps of what we're going to do. Of course, you install Git, you can download Git, and then we'll generate the key pairs. So since I'm on Windows, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to my home directory, and on the home directory there is a .ssh folder, and inside of that folder I'm going to create another folder for this demonstration. So this method that I've illustrated in this video is a nice way for you to create multiple keys. So if you want to create multiple keys, this is a way for you to go. Okay, and let's go into my home directory. So however you want to get to your home directory, if you're on Windows, you can always get to your home directory. You can just go to local disk, and inside of users, whichever user, that is your home directory. For me, that is also my home directory. Okay, so that is your home directory, and you can see for me, even hidden files, even hidden folders are being shown. So if your hidden folders are not being shown, just come here under view. I think it's under view, then you go into options, and then view again, and hidden files and folders, show hidden files, and make sure you select that. If you don't have hidden folders showing up, make sure they are visible. So for me, I want to go here inside of SSH, and let me create another sample. Control-Shift-N, and I want to call this, let's call this Virtualmin. So you can see that this is a really nice way, because you can group all your different SSH keys in different folders. If you do any default method that most people show online, you won't be able to do this. So just make sure you follow either of my posts. It's going to show you how you can log in even once you create multiple SSH keys. My SSH keys that I'm going to generate are going to be inside here. Okay, so that's the first step. Make sure that you have this .ssh visible on your home directory in Windows. Okay, so that's the first step. I have created the folder, and you can see that here in this post, what I did is I did change directory. So CD is a way for you to change directory into this folder. So for me, I would have, if I was following this method, I would have to SSH into the Virtualmin folder that I've just created, and that's going to ensure that I don't have to add the path every time I want to do anything here. And even next time when you have to log in, you can CD into that folder so that you can get the private key for logging in. This is much easier to understand if I'm doing a demonstration. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm not going to CD, but you can CD, okay? You can change directory into that folder. And if you change directory, it simply means that anything else that you do after that, you don't have to put, like for instance, there, that is the name of my key. Here, if I did not CD into that folder, I would have to add this location, copy that, and then you put it before this, okay? And that's the way that I'm going to do it. But you can still follow along with this and do it like this. But I'm not going to cd, I'm just going to add the path. So let me copy that, and I want to put this inside of a txt file. Let me put that inside of a txt file so that I don't forget it. And there, so this simply means my home directory. So instead of adding the link, adding the path to my home directory, that will replace that, my home directory. And what's the name of the folder that I've just created? It's called Virtualmin. So let me copy this as well, and I need the path. I just need this path, and this is where our keys are going to be. So you can see our keys will be stored inside here. So this is just the path to where my keys are. And now I can start following along with this tutorial. So the first step is, you can see if you cd, you don't need to add the path, but I'm going to have to add the path in my case. So I will copy all of this, and I will bring it into Notepad. And here in Notepad, as I said, you need to add the path. So if you cd into the folder, since you're on Windows, you don't need it. You don't need to add the path. That was just a way for me to save time. And this is the name of the key, Virtualmin /. So this is the name of the key. The private key and the public key will have that name. And you can change this name. It doesn't have to be anything like this. I'm just calling it this, but you can call it whatever you want, okay? I'll just call it first server, just to show you that you can change the name. So this SSH keygen is going to generate a key, and the type of key we want to generate is RSA, and the bytes we want to generate 4096. You can generate 2048. There is also 1024, but of course we want the highest, which is B, 4096. So this is the bytes of the key we want to generate, and this is just a comment. You can add anything that you want there. It doesn't have to be an email. That's just a comment that I've added there. And then now this is going to be where the file is going to get stored. Okay, so if I copy this, and just remember that this is being done on your local computer. So I will open. So I was logged in here as root. I can just delete this. I can just close that. I don't need that. And then I'm logged in here as a new user. Remember, we don't need to do we're not doing this inside the server. We're doing this outside of the server on a Windows computer. Right now we're logged into the server. So let me log out, and I can just do exit to log out. And you can see that has logged me out. Now you want to do this on your computer, okay? So this is on my computer, not in my server. This is where we are going to generate the key, and I'm going to paste that in there. You need to copy that, and let me just clear this screen. I will paste in this. What is up? Let me copy that. Copy. And then I will come here, there, SSH keygen. And remember, since I did not cd into the folder, I have to add the entire path. And as I said, this just replaces the path to my home folder. Okay, so that is what that does. And I'm going to press enter to generate our key. Now, of course, you want to add a passphrase for your key. A passphrase is an extra security for your key. So even if somebody gets access to your key, they will not be able to use it without knowing your passphrase. So it is like a password for your key, and you're going to generate the key with a passphrase. So for me, I'm just going to use a simple passphrase here, but make sure you use a passphrase that you can remember. Make sure you add this. This is very important, okay? So you can see our key has been generated, and the path to our private key is that, and the path to our public key is that. So this is a public key, and as I said, this path right here can just be replaced. This entire path can just be replaced with a tilde. So I'm going to copy this. Let me just copy both of them. Copy, and I want to add them. I want to paste them down here because I'm going to need them. Of course, I don't want to copy the entire thing. So from here, we'll just replace that with the tilde. So this is the one without .pub. That is your private key. And then this other one, this is our public key. And this one as well, I don't want the entire path. I'm just going to replace that with the tilde. Now we've generated the key. The next step is for us to add it to our server. So just remember that I did CD in this post. I CD'd inside of that directory, but I did not CD, but I haven't CD in the video that I'm doing. So SSH copy ID, this is going to get used to copy our public key to our server. And this is how it should be right there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this. Let me copy this one. And then I'm going to replace all the elements that I need with the correct elements. So I'm going to come to the text file that I had here. And in this text file, let me just paste in that now SSH copy ID. Now we do want the identity of the key. This is just a flag to let the system know the identity of the key. So we want to copy this into our server. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to bring that path there and I will paste it. Okay. And then the user, that is the username that I've been using on my server. That is the user that I've been using. And then the host, the IP address for my server. I can get that there. Paste. So this is going to add the key to our server. So it's very important to note that in this post, what I did is I CD'd into that folder. So that's why the path doesn't have the actual link. It just has the name of the key. Let's come back to Git Bash and I'm going to paste in this. And this is going to try and install the key on our server. And we need to log in. This is a login for your server. All right, so the key has been added and you can see that the key was added successfully. Now try logging into the machine with the SSH key. Now to log into your server, let's come back here. To log into your server, you just need the identity of your key and that's it. And the user you're logging in as. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to copy them and then I'm going to replace things appropriately as I need to. So SSH into the user and we have the user here. User plus IP address, copy. User plus the IP address, that's who we want to log in as. Remember to add the user, to add the SSH authentication for the sudo user you set up. And then we need the path to our private key, okay? We added, in this part, we did add the .pub key, which is a public key. Now we need to log in with our identity, with our private key. So the private key link is that. So I'm going to copy this and remember the private key is the one that doesn't have .pub. .pub is the one which is public, which is your public key. Paste. So once you generate these keys, make sure you save them somewhere so that if you ever lose your computer, you can still get access to them. You can still get those keys and try to access your server using those keys, especially the private key. So I'm going to copy. So I'm going to copy that and I will come back here and I'll just paste that in. This is just to try to log in. So enter the passphrase for the key. If you did set up a passphrase for these keys when you are setting them up, make sure that you enter that passphrase. There we go. Now we are logged into the server using our SSH keys. And before I even end the video, the next thing that I want to do is I want to disable root login and I want to disable password authentication. So I'm going to come down here and I need to go to the SSH configuration file, and I need to disable root login, and I need to disable password authentication. So I want to do that in this video so I don't have to do it in the next video. Copy and enter the user password. So every time you use sudo, you need to enter the password for this user. Right. So I need to find root login, and I need to change this to no, and I also need to find password authentication, and I need to change that to no. So I'm going to do Control W on nano, and then I will paste and permit root login currently set to yes. We don't want the root user to be able to log in via SSH. So I'm going to change this one to no. And then the next step again is I need to disable password authentication. So if someone doesn't have access to our keys, they will not be able to log into our server, and that's what we want. We only want people to be able to log in using the key that we set up. So I'm going to paste that in there, enter, and then password authentication, you can see right now it is commented out. So I'm just going to uncomment it and then scroll all the way. And this, we want to make this no. And then I will do Control X, Y, enter, and that's going to save it. And I need to restart SSH. So I can just do sudo service SSH restart, and that's going to restart SSH. And now if somebody tries to log in as a root user, they will not be able to log in. If somebody tries to log in via password, they will not be able to log in. Right now, the only way to log into our server is using the keys that we've set up. So do yourself a favor and just copy that and save it somewhere so that you can use this to log into your server if you need to. Okay. So I've just recalled there's something that I've forgotten to do, and that is to change the permissions for our SSH key and the SSH folder. So what we need to do, let's see if the permission thing is here. Okay, the permission thing is here. So I can just change permission for the SSH folder and the authorized keys on your server. So you need to make sure that the keys are not easily accessible, and that's what we're doing here. So I'm just going to copy this, and this will change the permissions for that SSH folder, and for the key, it's going to give it a permission of 600, so no one else has access other than root. Okay, and once you do that, you'll have to change the ownership for that file to the new user that you've set up. Otherwise, you won't be able to log in. So I'm going to copy this, and I will paste that in there. So the permissions have been changed. Now the next thing is for you to give ownership. You need to change the owner of that file and everything inside of this directory to the user that you've set up. Otherwise, you will not be able to log in. This is very important. So I'm going to copy that. And I will put it there. So every instance of Joe, give it the group of the user you've set up, and the group will be that new user. So the group of Joe, user Joe, home directory Joe, and once you do this, you'll be able to log in. Copy, paste, and then enter. And now let's open up a new instance of Git Bash, and we need to try to log in. So that is our login. I will paste All right, you can still log in. So that's everything that we needed to do in this video. And in this video, you have seen how you can set up SSH authentication using Git Bash. So you can follow the same steps. If you're on Linux or Mac, it's just basically the same steps. And if you don't want to use Git Bash, you can also use Putty and Puttygen. And I do have a video for that. If you come here, you can do that. If you go to this link and you scroll somewhere down here, you can watch the video right there. This is a video for using Putty and Puttygen for SSH keys. So if you get lost, make sure that you follow along and everything is going to work out correct. Now the next step is in our setup. We've already set up SSH keys. The next step is going to be, let's create the swap file, and I can create a swap file for 2 or 3 GB. A swap file is just a memory location that will be used when memory runs out on our server. So that's something that you need to add, especially if you have a low memory VPS. And then once we do that, we're going to get to installing Virtualmin, and then we'll see how to use Virtualmin to set up WordPress. And as I said, I'm just using WordPress as a sample. If you want to use any other websites like Joomla, Magento, you'll see how you can do it. And please note that I will be installing the LEMP stack. I will not be using LAMP. I will not install Apache. I will just install Nginx and PHPmyadmin for Virtualmin. So that's it for this one. I will see you in the next one, and let's continue in the next one by creating a swap file. Okay, so let's add a swap file, and then we're going to install Virtualmin after that. So let's just check if we do have. Now please note that there's something wrong with my site, and when I add 2 hyphens, it does that. Okay, so this is how it's supposed to be. Okay, like in this screenshot. So make sure that you note that any place where there are 2 hyphens, you will get something like that. So that is wrong. So let's first of all just see if we do have a swap file on our VPS. So sudo swap on, we're going to create a swap file. Sudo swap on and then -- show. So when you get the result like that, let me just do it again. When you get the result, no result, that means that there is no swap file. If there was one, it would have shown you the swap file. Now let's create a swap file, and I'm just going to give it the same names because I don't want to retype or edit anything. And I'm just going to also make it 2 GB. You can make it 3 GB, 4 GB if you want to. It depends on what you want right now, but don't make it too big if your memory is low. 2 GB is okay for me, so I'm going to use that. And now we need to change permissions for the swap file that we've created. So this is the name of the file. This is the name of the swap file. You can change the name if you want to use whatever name you want to. You can even store it somewhere else if you want to. Okay, you can see this is currently being stored under the root directory. If you want to change it, you can change it. So I'm going to copy that, and this just changes permissions for that file so that it has root level permissions. And then once we do that, this is going to make it a swap file, and this is going to turn the swap on. So what I can do is I can just copy the entire thing. As I said, I don't want to edit anything. That's why I'm just using the same name, and that's going to save me time. So I'm pasting that in there, and this is going to turn the swap on. And you can see now we do have a swap file for 2 GB. So right now, if I do sudo swap on show, it's going to show you that we have a swap file called my swap file, and the size is 2 GB. So the next step is, so right now, if you were to restart the system, it's not going to recognize that swap file. So what I need to do again is I will just need to add it into the fs tab file. And in this file, it lists the memory for the system so that when the system starts, it doesn't have to look for anything. Everything is already listed here. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put that in there. So inside of this file, we need to open that file, and then we need to put this in there. So if you change the name of the file or the location of the file, make sure that you update yours as you need to. So just scroll down, okay? And once you get here, you can just paste it. And once you do that, you can do Control X, Y, enter, and that's going to save the changes. And now you don't need to do anything else. If you do free -H to see the memory that you have, you can see we do have memory, our physical memory of 1.9 gigs, and we have the swap memory of that. Okay, so that's that, and that's pretty much it for this. In the next video, let's see how we can install Virtualmin, and that's the last thing that we need to do. We're going to install the LEMP stack of Virtualmin, and once we do that, we're going to see how we can run WordPress in Virtualmin. And as I said, we will be using Nginx. So I'll see you in that one. Okay, finally we have to install. Finally, we get to the part where we install Virtualmin. So I'm just going to copy that from there. So make sure your server is set up by the time you get to this stage of installing Virtualmin. Make sure that you have already set up your server like we've done in the previous videos. So that is the most important part, setting up your server. So as I said, my website is having problems with this --. If I put ---- in anything, it somehow strips out one. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this, but I need to edit this so that it can look like that with 2 dashes without any spaces, to let Virtualmin know that I want to install the LEMP stack and I don't want to install LAMP stack. So I'm going to paste that in there, and let me just come this way, delete that space there. I will add 2 hyphens, --. What is the problem here? Oh, it has come with some formatting. Let me just do that again. Remove any formatting there. Enter. And now Virtualmin is telling you that these are the supported operating systems, and we are going to install the LEMP stack for you. Okay, so it will require up to 650 MB of disk space. And do you want to continue? Absolutely yes. And then let's just let it run, install everything it needs. And then once everything is installed, we're going to come back here and we're going to see how we can add our first website. Now, before we even do that, let me come here. So the name of our hostname was that. Let me go and add the DNS records for this on Cloudflare. And as I said, I will be using Cloudflare for my DNS. Okay. So I will add an A record, paste that in there with my IP address. So if you don't use Cloudflare for your DNS, I don't know, maybe just look through my videos. There's a video I did about how you can create child domains. So there, and I know right now the port used by Virtualmin is not supported by Cloudflare. So I'm going to disable proxy and I'm going to save. And I want to do the same and let me add a CNAME record for www. So I will add a CNAME record for www. www.panel1, and the target is panel1. I don't know whether I can add that. Is it possible to add that? Yeah, let's see if this is going to give me, and I will unproxy that, save, And yeah, you can see it does automatic. So you can use art to replace the domain name anywhere. Instead of typing the domain name, just type art and it's going to get replaced with that, with the domain name. So panel 1, we've added that. And for this one as well, let's change the IP address, because I see I was using it for a different tutorial at some point and this IP address is no longer available. So I'm just going to paste in the new IP address for a record, and I'm going to install WordPress here. I'm going to show you how you can install WordPress on that. And www, instead of using an a record for www, let me use a CNAME record. So for www, let me add a CNAME record, CNAME for www, and the target is art. And that can be proxied because it will be accessible via the Cloudflare network. So these ones, I was probably using this for a different tutorial. So let me just delete them. JavaScript sample. I will delete the sample. This I was using for a different tutorial. This one as well, I was using for a different tutorial. So I'm just going to delete both of that. Now, is there anything else that I need to add here? There we have that. And you know what? I can also add mail. Let me add mail. Mail, is it an AMX? We already have that. So I think mail will just use this. It will automatically get added here. Okay. Now the reason that I have chosen to install bind, which is used for DNS, is because it will automatically create some of these records for me. And if those records are created, I can just copy them. Okay, if I ever need anything, I can just copy them from there. Let's just wait for it to finish installing, and then we're going to try and access. It. For now, I've already changed the IP address to reflect. Let's just see if Nginx is already installed and set up. So you can see Nginx is already installed on our server. Let's just wait for it to finish installing, and then we're going to log into Virtualmin, and then we'll see how to do the initial setup. So this is a part that is very important. If you paused and you didn't watch this part about DNS, make sure you watch it, because this is how you'll make sure that your website is accessible on the internet. So I'm using Cloudflare, but you can use any DNS provider just in a similar way. Just add an A record for your website with your IP address, and for your panel, add the address there. If you want to be able to access this and you want to create a Let's Encrypt SSL, make sure you add www, and you add that record for that, a record for that as well. So you can also change the port. I'm going to change the port to something that is accessible via Cloudflare, and once I do that, you'll see that we can come in here and we can proxy it. For now, we won't be able to proxy any traffic through this because Cloudflare doesn't support the port that Virtualmin uses. So let's come back and just give it time. Okay, so you can see installation is complete. Everything is accessible. So since I've already added the DNS records for this, I can access it using this. However, if you haven't added the DNS records, you can access Virtualmin directly using your IP address. So I can access it using this link because I've added the DNS records on Cloudflare. So if I come back here, I can just go to that site and it should give me that warning. Okay, and this is just because this is a self-signed certificate. So I'm going to continue. So you can log in using any of the root users that you have on your server, and you do remember that we did set up a user called new user, and that's the one I'm going to log in as, new user. You can also log in using root with the credentials you got from here. So I'm going to log in as new user, and the password was, let me see. There we go. Okay, so now we are logged into Virtualmin. Now we are logged into Virtualmin, and we need to do post-installation setup. Okay, now these are just some questions that you're going to get asked so that Virtualmin can get set up with the best settings, the best preferences based on your server. So let's just click next to start this. Preload libraries. So for me, I'm going to choose no. Oh, it's only 40 MB, so I'm just going to click yes anyway. Run email, domain lookup server. That I can choose no or yes. If you have like 2 gigs of memory, I mean this is very little, so I can say yes to both of them. And then if your system is going to host enable virus scanning, keep using on-demand scanner. If you're going to use this to host websites maybe and you have enough RAM, make sure you choose this because this is very RAM intensive, but at least it helps to scan your email, and that's very important if you're hosting other people's sites on Virtualmin. The next step, run spam assassin. This one, of course, no. That one I'll choose no and then go next. But you can also choose yes if you're hosting other people's mail and you do have enough RAM. Run MySQL database server, absolutely. And run Postgres. No, I don't want to run Postgres. I just need MySQL. And once I do that, okay, now we can set the MySQL password. So let me just copy this. You never know where you might need this. So this is a MySQL password for the root user. I will click next. Let me put that in here. You never know when you'll use it. Copy it somewhere and save it. Okay, so what next here? MySQL is configured. MySQL configuration size. So I'll just choose small system. I'll choose a small system, but if you do have a lot of sites, especially WordPress, a big WordPress website, WooCommerce, you probably need to go with huge system. This is going to optimize MySQL for you. Okay, so for me, I'm just going to leave that, but let me choose default. I don't know which one is default, but I'll just leave it at default, and then I'll go next. For DNS zones, primary DNS, okay, I'll choose that, but I'm not using my own website. I'm not using my own name servers, so it doesn't really matter because I'm using Cloudflare. So for this, I'm just going to leave it as it is, and then I'm going to click next. And then what else remains? Password storage mode. Of course, I want my passwords to be encrypted, to be hashed. So I'm going to select that one. Make sure you read this carefully before you make a choice. Set up default virtual server. Yes, I want this to be my default virtual server, and then yes with let's encrypt. So that's why I added the DNS record for WW and DNS records for WW panel and panel. Okay, this to make sure you add the DNS records for these two, because if you don't have those records, you won't be able to set up SSL and you won't even be able to log in on your server like that. So let's go next and let that happen. Okay, so there we go. Everything is done. So Virtualmin post installation configuration is now complete. Let me just click next so that it can do the final checks, and then you can do this recheck and refresh configuration. Let's just see your system has, which is at or above that. Virtualmin is configured to set up DNS zone, but this system is set up to use itself as a DNS server. So I don't want to use that, but it doesn't really matter because right now, even if I create a new website, I'm going to add the DNS records myself. Let me just relog this and see if we still get this not secure. So the first thing I want to do is, before I even go any further, the first thing I really want to do is I want to come here under, where is it? Let's see if it's under webmain. I need to change the port. Okay, I'll do that in the next video. So I don't want the video to be too long. But anyway, at this point, even if you add a new website, so just a brief, if you want to add a new website, all you have to do is you'll just need to come in here under Virtualmin and then click on create a virtual server. That's going to set up a website. So before you set up a website, make sure that you give it DNS records right there on Cloudflare. So really don't worry about the DNS thing because you're going to use Cloudflare. But as for mail, if you want to check the DNS things, the DNS settings that you need to use, is it here under server configurations? Yeah, here under DNS records. So make sure, so here you see we have one website, and that website needs to have these records. So this is why I installed bind. At least it gives us the value that we need to have. So you can just copy these values and add them to Cloudflare. Like we've already added, which one have we've added an A record, and then www. Okay, they chose to use an A record, but I chose a CNAME. You can add FTP record. If you go there, add an A record. MX record. Have we added MX? I don't think I've added MX. I can add MX. If you want to send mail with this, if you want mail to be sent, make sure you add an MX record. Let me just do this as an example before I end the video. So I'm going to add panel 1, that MX, and the record is going to be this copy. So let's come back here, and I want to add an MX record for that subdomain. So just note that it is a subdomain. So here it will be panel 1, and we need to add mail. Priority, I saw there the priority was 5, so I'm going to save that. And so this is all you need to do. You just go into server configuration, DNS records, and you can copy the records that you need to add to Cloudflare. This is why I actually installed bind. I just decided to install everything with the Virtualmin for this reason. So even you can see here you have SPF records. You can just copy this and you add them there. Is there direct SPF records, or it has to be a TXT? Okay, you see you can add it as an SPF record. So just copy that and you can do that. The next thing that I want to do in the next video is I want to come here and I want to change the port. So edit virtual server. Let's see if it has SSL. So it has Nginx SSL. Okay, so it has SSL. That means that I can change the port to a supported Cloudflare port. So in the next video, let's see how to change Virtualmin port so that it can use a Cloudflare port, so that if people want to log into their websites, they can do so even if their websites are powered via Cloudflare. So let's see how to do that in the next. So in the last video, we installed Virtualmin and we saw how to set up your DNS on Cloudflare. In this video, I want to change the Virtualmin port so that at least if people are using it via Cloudflare, they can still access Virtualmin, the Virtualmin backend using a Cloudflare port. So first of all, let's just search which ports are supported on Cloudflare. So I'll just search for Cloudflare ports, and I can click on identify network ports compatible with Cloudflare. And you can see here we do have HTTP ports and we have HTTPS ports. So I can choose any one of these ports to use. So let me just choose 2053, and this is a port I want to change my Virtualmin to. So to change your port on Virtualmin, all you have to do is come here under webmin and then go into webmin and then webmin configuration. Even before I do that, let's go into, where is the firewall? Let's go into firewall D. I'll open that in a new tab. And I want to add that 2053 port on accepted ports. You can see it is not available it is not available here. So the first thing I need to do is add a port. So add allowed port. So we need to allow it through our firewall first of all, and a single port. I will just add 20 2053. So 2053, and the network is TCP, of course. And I'm going to click there to create the port. And this is going to allow it through our firewall, and therefore it will be accessible even on the public end. Okay, so now that the port is added, you can also decide to disallow 10,000 if you don't want people to try and log into Virtualmin using that port. But since you've changed the port and you've added the port, even if they go there, they won't be able to log in. So let's come in here, and so just a recap: go into webmin, go into usermin, webmin configuration, go into webmin configuration, and then under webmin configuration, choose ports and addresses. And then under ports and addresses, we need to change listening port. Now the listening port is currently set to that. We want to change it to 2053. 2053. And as soon as I do that, save, of course, we won't be able to log in using this port anymore. Okay. This means that the server cannot access it through that port. So what I have to do is I have to log in again, copy, and I will just paste that there. And the new port is 20. The new port is 2053. Enter. Do I have to type this every single time? So the new port is HTTPS. So you can see if somebody tries to go in there using HTTP, they will not be able to access it. Okay, and you can see now the port has been changed. So now that the port has been changed, we can come back here and we can say now Cloudflare can proxy this, and Cloudflare can proxy that as well. No, not MX, but the A record. Cloudflare can proxy that. Okay, so in this video, you've seen how you can change your ports, and if you want to use Cloudflare, or you have clients and some of them will use Cloudflare, it's just a good idea to add a port that is acceptable via Cloudflare, so that even if your clients are using Cloudflare, they won't experience any problems. Now, in the next video, let's see how to add WordPress, and we're going to install WordPress on this website. So let me just copy it. And in the next video, we're going to see how we can add it. We're going to see how we can add it on Virtualmin. So that's it for this video. Let us see how to add a website on Virtualmin. So right now, if I come here under Virtualmin, you can see we do have the default website. And what I want to do now is I want to add another website. Once you click there on Virtualmin, you can just click to create a virtual server that is typically a website. And the website name is that. So just remember that before you add a website, add the A record for that website. Add the A record for that website on Cloudflare if you're using Cloudflare like me. So for me, I've already added the A record with the correct IP address, and I've also added www as a CNAME record. That will enable Virtualmin to create SSL successfully. So you can add a description if you want to admin password. You can generate an admin password for that. Account administration username, you can use automatic. Automatic is just going to take. It's going to take that, okay? Or you can use a custom name, okay? So it's probably better to just use a custom name. Account plan, default plan, that's the only one we have. Server configs, you can set up server config somewhere here, but I haven't done any of that, so I don't really mind for that. Advanced options here, all of this, we leave them as they are. Enable SSL, all this, enable all of this. These ones I will also leave them as they are, and then I will click on create server. So let it set up everything for us. So I saw something here like error 525, and I hope that that is not going to affect my website in any way. So let me just come here, and so this is a website. We've already added the DNS records. So let's just go and see if it's already been set up. So you can see the website has been set up. We can install WordPress on it. So if you want to add another website, it's just like that, okay? On Cloudflare, you want to add another website, just click there, add a site. Maybe you have another site. Click there, add the name of the site. Let me open this. Can I open this in a new tab? Okay, I can't. Let me say you have an example, a website like examplec.com. And then you can click there to add site. And then you'll just choose the free plan and then continue. And then it's going to scan for the DNS records. And then once it scans the records, it's going to tell you that you need to go to wherever your domain is being hosted, the name, the provider of your domain. If you bought it from GoDaddy, Namecheap, Cloudflare is going to give you certain name servers. Take those name servers and then use those name servers. Remove the name servers that are currently on your site. So this website probably doesn't exist. I don't know if it exists. But if it existed, we wouldn't have to scan it for this long. So let me just come back to the one we were working with. But that's pretty much it. Once you do that, just click there on DNS. Once the website, you've already gone to your domain provider and you've changed the name servers to what Cloudflare has given you, then you can come here under DNS records and start adding these DNS records. Make sure you add all the DNS records as I showed you in the last video. You can come under, is it here under server configurations? Just go to your DNS records. And if you come to your DNS records for this website, you can see that these are the records you can add on the other end. Mail, you can add a record, and this is going to ensure that mail is getting sent. If you don't add these records, mail will not get sent, okay? You can see it even tells you the type of record it is. You can add FTP a record on the other side. You can add the mail record and as an a record at the IP address and so on and so on, okay? SPF record, just come here, click there, add a record. And as I said, I was going to be using, I was to use Cloudflare for this. If you want to use your own website as your own name servers, it's also possible. You can do that using Virtualmin, but I'm not going to go into that. Now, let's forget about that. Now we've set up our site. Now the next thing is, let's see how we can install WordPress on it. So I'm going to click there on install scripts. You can install script, you can install WordPress, or you can even, you can even import a WordPress website. If you already have a site, maybe you're moving to Virtualmin from a different place. Just go to your WordPress website and then install the duplicator plugin, duplicate your website, and then come into the file manager. And then once you're inside of the file manager, once you're here on the public HTML, just upload your duplicated website and then run the installation file. You know how to use the duplicator plugin. If you don't, just find out how. And then once you run it, you can move your website here. I don't need to deal with that right now. So the first thing I want to do here is install WordPress. So if you're starting as afresh, you can just click there on WordPress. Not click, you check it, and then show install options. Come in here and change any settings that you want to change. Database for the WordPress, you can do that here. You can even create a database already. If you come here under Virtualmin, there's database, edit databases. You can come here under databases and you can create a new database. You can delete a database. If you want to create a new database completely, you can create a database. The username for your database is that. You can change it there. The password there, you can generate a new one, change the password there. So if you forget any details about your database, just come there under edit database. Where is it? There, edit database. Make sure you select the correct website there. And then you can change the WordPress details, the database details. So for me, I really don't want to do anything here. I don't want to change any of these details. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come there, and you can install WordPress in a directory, in a subdirectory, which is actually the recommended way by some people. But I'm going to install it under public HTML. I will install it there. let's just install our WordPress. Are you sure you want to install WordPress? Of course I want to install WordPress. There we go. So our WordPress is installed. So let's just visit the front end of our site to see if WordPress is actually installed. There we go. So you see it just brought the files. It still wants us to continue with the installation ourselves. So site title, let's just call it sample. Username sample. And password sample. Confirm use of a weak password, yes. And then search engine visibility, discourage. Of course, if your website is live, you want to encourage that, just leave that unchecked. And then I'm going to install WordPress. Now everything has already been set up, like the WP config file has already been set up by Virtualmin, so I don't really need to do anything. So I can log into my site, log in, and now we definitely do have an issue. So if you did install your WordPress under a folder, which is actually something that I would recommend you do, you install it under a folder, come here under settings, and then go into, is it under general settings? Yeah, here under general settings, your WordPress address, let's say you installed it under WP. If you come here, you'll find that your website is under WP, and this one is probably also under WP. So what you'll need to do is the WordPress address. This is where the WordPress files will be. So that, make sure you remove that. That's the first step. And don't save it first. Just leave it like that. Don't save it first. First of all, go into Virtualmin. And before even going to Virtualmin, I need to show you what I'm going to do to that side on that end. So if I come here under Hello World, our post, you can see, look at that. We don't want this, okay? This is a problem that comes with Nginx, and we definitely don't want that. So we can set that up, and let's also go here under permalinks. So if you come here under permalinks, okay, we need to change it to that post name. So if I save it to the post name, you'll see that you're going to get a 404. Hello world, we're going to get a 404 error. So if you try to go there, it's going to give us a 404 error, right? That's what we want. But it's giving us a 404 error. So what I need to do is I need to go into webmin. So let's go here under webmin, and we need to change something. We need to add this into our Nginx configuration. So this is something that you need to do, okay? So add that into Nginx configuration. Copy, and I will, where is it? Where do I need to go? Do we go under server, Nginx configuration? Can you see Nginx web server? Let's go there under servers, Nginx web server, and then edit configuration files. And then we need to choose the one for our site, and we want to choose the configuration for this. And we just need to add it under this location. This is just another location on Nginx, and this is the one that's going to tell Nginx that now you don't need to bring people this 404 nonsense. And that is also going to tell. So something that you need to remember, if you changed the location where your files are, okay? Where was it? Settings, permalinks, not permalinks, general settings. If you change that and your files are probably under, let's say they were under a folder called WP, okay? So the site address will just remain as it is, as your website, and then the website, the WordPress address will be the location with the folder of your WordPress files. So if you did change that, here under this Nginx configuration, here before index.php, make sure you add WP so that Nginx can know where to go, okay? And then you will also need to copy the index.php from your your file manager. So if you know how to install WordPress in a subdirectory, I don't need to tell you this. If you don't know, then just avoid it. But that's just something I wanted to tell you. If you install it in a subdirectory, make sure you add the subdirectory there. Mine is not installed in a subdirectory, so I'm just going to save and close. And then once I save and close, I'm going to come here and apply Nginx configuration. So try not to change any other configurations because you may mess up your site if you don't know what you're doing. So once I do that, if I try to come here, I should get a 4.4. But the good thing is, if I go back to my home page, my permalinks should be working fine, and this is what you want. Okay, so that's the only thing you need to do if you install WordPress. Now if you want to add another WordPress website, it's just that simple. Just come here under Virtualmin, then add a virtual server, create a virtual server, and create the website. And even before you create the website, this is very important. Before you create the website, come here under your DNS and make sure that you add the DNS records for the website. Okay, if you want to use a different website, you can choose the website here. Just click there, add a site on Cloudflare, and once you add it, add the DNS records. The basic DNS records that you need to add when you're adding the website on Virtualmin, the basic records, the basic ones are the www and the A record. The A record for that domain. Okay, just add an A record with the IP address and a WWC name. Okay, those are the basic ones that you need to add. As soon as you add those, you can just come here and SSL will be created. If your DNS records don't have www and do not have this A record, you will not be able to create SSL. Let's Encrypt is not going to work. So that's just something that I wanted to tell you. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. If there's anything else that you need to change, feel free to look at the Virtualmin documentation. There are lots of helps. There are lots of help guides from other people. There are also lots of questions and answers on the forum. And I hope this will help you. If you want to move to Nginx and PHPmyadmin, you can use Virtualmin for that. So if you want to install other sites, maybe Magento, PrestaShop, it's just the same process. Just install. You can upload the website. I've shown you how you can edit the database. Now maybe the next thing that you may need to do is install PHPmyadmin so that you can import databases into your website. So if that's something that you want to do, then you can just come here. Let's say maybe you want to install PHPmyadmin. Let's see in the next video, let's see how you can install PHPmyadmin, and then we see how you can manage your databases on PHPmyadmin, and that will be the last video in this tutorial. So this is the last video in this Virtualmin tutorial, and in this last video, let's just see how you can install PHPmyadmin. It just came up as a result of installing WordPress in the last video. I will choose my website here, just here under Virtualmin. I will choose panel 1, that is a main website for my Virtualmin, and I want to install Virtualmin on that. I want to install PHPmyadmin on that. So I'll just come here under install scripts. I want to install PHPmyadmin. Show installation options. Okay, so you can see that it's telling me that it cannot be installed because this website does not have a database. So I'm going to go into edit virtual server. Make sure you have it selected there, edit virtual server. And you can see MySQL is not enabled for this. So I'm going to enable MySQL, and then I'm going to save. MySQL has been created for that, and that's what we wanted. Now the next step is for me to go into that website again. Okay, it's already selected, so I'm just going to go into install scripts again, and I'm going to try and install PHPmyadmin. There we go, and I will show install options, and this time around it should be able to work without any warnings. So you can choose all the options that you want to choose. Automatically log into MySQL. Of course not, you want to be able to enter a password, but if you don't mind, you can always automatically log into MySQL using PHPmyadmin. That's something you don't want to do, but if you don't care, then choose no. Choose yes, I mean. Database to manage all databases, indeed, and install. You can install it at the top level, or you can install it in a folder. Okay, so for me, I'm going to install it in a folder, and I'm just going to call this folder Z. So instead of going to /PHPmyadmin, I'll just go into /Z, and that's going to take me to PHPmyadmin. And then I will install now. All right, there we go. Now let's see if I go to, I don't know if I can access it from here. Let's try javascriptbear.com, copy, and remember I installed it under Z. And you can see if I go to that /Z, I'm able to access it. Let's see for the other websites that I created, if I can also access it, javascriptbear.com/Z. Go. Okay, I can't access it from there. I have to access it from this end. Add in the username and the password. And where do you get the username and the password? I showed you that in the last video. You just come in here under edit databases for the website that you want to work with. If you want to see the database users for that, you can click there and select the correct website, click on edit databases, and you can see the usernames. You can change a username, you can change the passwords as well. Okay, and you can use that to log in to MySQL, to log into PHPmyadmin, okay. That's pretty much it for this video. And at some point you're probably going to get an error whereby you cannot import a database because of some limit. Now if that happens, let me give you the fix for that. Let me just do an example to show you what I mean. Let's say that I try to log into, so the username is that. You can change the username and save, just change it and save, and the username will be saved. So that's the username, and then the database password, you can just click there under passwords and you can copy the password. This is for the wrong one. We want the one for this website. Make sure you know which website you're working with. So I'm going to copy that, and then I want to log into PHPmyadmin to administer my database. And you can see here, do I have a database inside there? Okay, I do have one database. It doesn't have any tables. Let's say that I try to import a database here. So let me click on import, and there's an error that usually happens. So let's say that I try to import a database. Let me select this database. I hope it's big enough. It's big enough to give me that problem. Okay, so if you get this error for 13, this is just an Nginx thing. Okay, you can fix it quite easily. Let me just show you how you can do that. Now the default packet size in Nginx is 1 MB. Okay, so if you try to upload something that is more than 1 MB, you're going to get that for 13 error. So we can just copy this, and for me, I've put it at 50, but you can do, let's just do something like 20 MB. So if your database is larger, make sure you increase this. So I'm going to copy that client max body size 20, and then let's go back to Nginx. And I will just come here under server configurations, servers, and I will go into Nginx web server, and I will go into edit configuration files, and I want to import it for, which was that. I want to import it for that. So what I can do is, you can see it's not even listed here. It's not even here, but I can just add it after this before the location. You can just add the client max body size tab, and then you can save and close, and then apply the Nginx configuration by restarting Nginx. And now if we come back here, let's wait for Nginx to restart. And I can try to do this again. Let us try to import the database one more time, right there. And now the database has been successfully imported. So if I come here, you'll see that it has all the tables that we had. So the database has been successfully imported, And that's what we needed to do. So if you need to import a database into your website, maybe you're moving a new website, you can now do it, okay? Just make sure that you increase the packet size as I've shown you in that configuration file, okay? So that's pretty much it for this video, for this tutorial as well. You've seen how you can set up Nginx, how you can set up Virtualmin and use it to host other websites, to host your websites. So I've shown you an example with WordPress, but you can use any script that you want to use. Any PHP script that you want to host with Nginx, you can do that. Just make sure that you find the Nginx configuration files for that platform so that you don't get any errors. Like for WordPress, you saw how to remove the 404 errors if you want to work with the WordPress pretty permalinks. So every platform has them, okay? Nginx, you'll always find a solution for them. Like if you're using Magento, you'll find some Nginx configuration that you can just add on your Nginx configuration file, and then your Magento will work well, whether it's Joomla, whichever platform you're using. Don't be worried, there are always solutions online. So if you don't like to use Apache, especially on a low VPS, I'm telling you, if you're using Apache on a server with less than 4 GB of RAM, then I don't know what you're thinking. You should definitely just switch to Nginx, because Nginx is much more performance oriented. It will serve multiple people using the same resources. Okay, so that's just one of the reasons why I love to use Nginx, because it is resource friendly. You don't need to use a huge VPS or a huge dedicated server. If you're running Nginx, you can use Nginx with small resources, 1 GB RAM, 2 GB RAM. It's going to work out fine. Your website, even if it serves thousands of people, you will not get timeout errors like you would get with Apache. With Apache, you'll get lots of 500 server errors. So do yourself a favor and just learn more about Nginx and get into the Nginx world, because it is a much more resource-friendly web server. I know Apache is easier to use because of HT access, but yeah, you can do the same things with Nginx configuration files. So just get into that mindset. All right, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial. If you do have any questions, feel free to let me know.